Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Beyond the Green Room, our final show before the Christmas holiday. That spirited Irish music is from a show called Himself and Nora, which one of our guests today has a connection with, and I'll bet he doesn't even know that I have one as well. So it's one of the other connections that we have. So it's sort of a family show today. It's our 20th show, our last one of the year. And I have three wonderful people that I consider family, and I'm so excited to see them. I even have my little Christmas tree behind me. So without further ado, let me bring on my guests. These first two people are coming from the same house, the same studio right now. Two of our guests happen to be married to each other. I'll let you figure out who they are, but you'll probably be able to figure that out now because they're sitting next to one another. Please welcome Adrianne Hick and Andrew Foote.
Hi, David.
Hello. And of course your names are opposite on the screen, so I'll let our audience figure out who's who. But, you know, don't switch places. You look beautiful just the way you are. Let's bring on our third guest. This gentleman is someone I've worked with, and he's a real mensch. It also happens to be his birthday today. Please welcome Gary Troy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gary, you're...
I'd like to see everybody. How you doing? All right. You don't look too drunk, love. You don't.
Thank you.
Good.
Well, you know, this is a brunch time show, so I always say, please pour your favorite beverage. I'm actually drinking iced coffee out of my Broadway theater glass. Yeah, I know. It's going to become a real collector's item soon. So, and Gary, yours is a lot bigger than mine.
But they all know that. We don't need to go into that detail.
All right. So before we go too far down that rabbit hole, we always start out our Beyond the Green Room with 1 degree of David Edwards. So I'm going to ask each one of you how we first know each other, how we met. And it doesn't have to be the same story that I have. It may not even be the same story, but you know, depending upon your recollection, but it always gets the ball rolling and gets us to chatting. So, all right, let's see. I think I've known Andrew the longest. So
yeah, we met about. I actually just said this as we were unloading the dishwasher. I think it's almost 20 years. So you were in 3rd grade and I was in 1st.
That's right. Very good. Good answer.
No, we met during Camelot. It was, I think it was my first Camelot, my first and only, and you're like, what, 25th Camelot at the time?
Wasn't that many, but yeah.
Way back.
And I thought it was Rumors. Was it? I thought it was Rumors.
I think we did one. I think we did. Did we do Camelot before Rumors? You directed Rumors? Yeah.
I don't know, but what we're talking about is our near and dear Surflight Theater.
Yeah.
Where, Andrew has probably done more shows than anybody and all of us combined. And I think you must have one of those stones in the forecourt named after you.
I think they're gonna put my ashes in one of those at some
point. You know, I kept thinking they were going to maybe put a plaque above one of the urinals in the men's room for me. You know, say here David Edwards. But see, yeah. All right. The Christmas show, we're already getting a little. All right.
Love it.
All right, I'm gonna move to Gary and then come back to Adrianne.
Davey, we met many moons ago, not quite as long as Andrew, but back in Westchester Broadway, doing A Christmas Carol, and you were that lovable rogue Scrooge, and I was Marley and Old Joe and a few other crazy parts. But you know, the minute I met you in rehearsal, and the late great George Puello, you know, I mean, seriously, and God bless him. And I just knew that we had a connection, mate. You are, as we say at home, hysterical. Absolutely brilliant and a joy. You're really great, mate. You're always positive, and it's nice to have.
I thank you for saying that, because I feel the same way about you. And I have to tell you, one of the first things you said to me, because you came up and introduced yourself, told me you were playing, who you were playing, but you also said to me, "I'm your understudy." And now with a lesser man, that could have been deemed as either a threat or a warning.
The knives are out.
With you, it was full of warmth and positivity. So
you actually had me cracking up on stage several times. Like, we won't get into,
Well, I think you had me cracking up mostly in those
particular line
back and forth. We had a few harrowing trips back and forth up the Parkway there. It was, of course, whenever you do a winter show in a community theater, you have to deal with weather. And as any of you who know dinner theater, especially Westchester Broadway Theater, the lamented home for so many of us this year, we would know that the matinee was going on if the prime rib had been put in the oven. So even if there was a blizzard, if the prime rib went in,
that's it. You're on.
Show that afternoon. So we all got in the van and went up the Parkway and hopefully arrived in time. Safe.
Good memories.
Yeah, and I remember having problems with the brakes in the van once, and we were coming down the hill, and you were always sitting in the front seat, which I thought was very generous.
Study in case something happened to you.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, well, I see.
I didn't mean to open the door and push you out that time. I didn't mean. Yeah.
All right, Adrianne, how did we first meet?
Well, I heard about you for years before we met, actually. I know, because this one always said that he wanted a career just like yours, that he wanted to grow up to be you. Not that there was that much of a difference between, but he said, that's the man I want to be. So I heard about you for years before I met you in an audition room. And even then I put it together, but we didn't make any connections, obviously, because of Andrew. But I met you when you directed me in South Pacific at the Ivoryton Playhouse in Connecticut.
And I remember, I knew she was auditioning for you, and I knew I'd known you for years, but I waited until after you called her back to send you an email to say, just so you know, that's one of the girls that's coming. Really good.
And I'm so glad it worked out. And I'll tell you now for the first time that, because I didn't know you, and but I had a young lady who was on my list to bring in that I was so certain was going to be our choice. And it ended up between the two of you. But the minute you walked in and read with the Emile Debec, we knew we had the right choice. And so in essence, you edged out the director's pet that was coming in. So and it was a no-brainer. And what a delightful. I think the first time I directed South Pacific was at Surflight, but this one, Forgive Me, Surflight, was my favorite production. That was
a good show.
It was a magical show. It really was a special thing. It was very special.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah, it was delightful.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
And we all got all the award nominations for it and didn't win a thing.
No. Well, we were up against some heavy hitters, but I will say we sold that run out and we made extra money in that run because we were doing 9 performances a week, maybe 10 even some of those weeks. Those 4th of July weeks, we had like 2 performances and we sold them out. They were trying to scalp tickets in the parking lot.
Well, I have to tell you that I was told that was the biggest grossing production in Ivoryton's history. But then next year they told me the same thing for the La Mancha. So, and just so you know, I haven't gone back to direct another show after that. I don't know whether it's because they either feel they have to put more seats in the theater or they've just had enough with it. I really can't tell. So, but this is, you're all bringing up such lovely memories for me. Gary, I have to ask you, so you did Himself and Nora in
Yes.
New York. You were the standby for everybody,
I was hired as the cover for James Joyce, for Matt Bogart, and then also covering Michael McCormick. Now, Michael McCormick, as you know well, Michael was only hired for half of the run, and I was to take over. I was hired, and I took over the second half of the run, which is actually more than half because he left early to do another show. So I took over that role, I think maybe 2 months into the run, month and a half.
I can't think of a more perfect person for that show in a way, because parts, and you know that I was involved with that show years prior.
You just teased me on the opening. I heard this music, Davey. I heard the music and I said, this is not real. Like, it can't be. I have Himself and Nora. I mean, I used to hear that backstage before we'd walk on every night. And like, then all of a sudden I'm like, is Dave playing with me head as usual? And now you have a connection to it, and I'm dying to hear it.
Well, it was several years before. It was the world premiere at the Old Globe in San Diego.
That's right. Yeah.
And I actually played the priest and the son.
Zach Prince played it.
Yes, and Matt Bogart was in that production, and Kate Shindle and Frank Mastrone and Kathy Griffin, and it was just the five of us. They built a set that we had two Broadway directors, both Jeff Calhoun and Joseph Hardy were co-directors of that show. Now, for a cast of only 5 people, you would think we need 2 big name Broadway directors and a set. Frank Mastrone and I, we were looking at this set and we said, we are going to Broadway, because look at this, there's steel, there's elevators in this set. They had every producer out there looking at it, and we didn't go to Broadway. We rehearsed for 6 weeks, and we performed it for only 5. It was in a nice 11-week contract in San Diego in the winter, which was delightful. Yeah. But we kept waiting for it to go to Broadway. It never did, and it finally resurfaced again. And you guys did it off Broadway for a nice healthy run.
We did it. Yeah, and it was Whitney Basher was in it.
And by then, I had outgrown. I was a little old to be playing James Joyce's son initially too, but you know, I read for the part of the father, and Joe Hardy said, "Would you read the other part?" And so there it was, but it was great fun. It was a wonderful show.
I actually got hired for that show for the first time via Zoom.
Really?
Down in Florida, and they called me in, and the agent says, listen, they want you to come in and read for Himself and Nora, and blah, blah, blah. And when I walked into the room, the people were there, and they said, well, actually, the director is not here. And I'm like, okay. He said, he's there on the table. And he said, here he is. I'm like, oh hello. Wow. And that's how it happened. It was I never auditioned to a computer before. And
well, we're doing it more and more. And now during this period, we've been doing a lot of it. And I've actually got some jobs this way now, and then that was kind of remarkable. This was way before we had to do it. So yeah. But it was just a big part of my heart. That show was it meant everything to me. That show, I loved it. It was a complex and very. I'm Matt Bogart, who was your James Joyce, was with us too. He was in it every step of the way, and you couldn't have a more consummate professional. And I have to ask, did he start the show in this production? Because I didn't see the off-Broadway production.
Oh, okay.
He started our show in a fetal position, stark naked on the stage.
No, that was after the show. No, I'm joking. No, that was actually he was on a big table dead, and Whitney, it comes out, and his wife comes out and she says all these, she's mourning him, but she starts the story, and he wakes up, and we go back to 1904, and we go.
I wish you'd seen it. I'm sorry, because
Davey, well, I loved it.
I start every show in the fetal position, stark naked. So I stole that for Eric, and I was like, I'm using it. That's
great. It's definitely a go-getter. Yeah.
The only thing I will caution you with, Andrew, is that Matt, the biggest problem was that we didn't know where to put his mic pack because they were trying to disguise the cord and everything like that.
Yeah.
No, the way we started it, Gary, was that he was, I guess that was his birth. And he was, and the two artists that played his parents came out and helped him dress. And I think they had his mic pack in there. But I was the other actor who was standing up in my raised pulpit as the priest, looking down. So I got a bird's eye view of everything. There were Matt Bogart was such a heartthrob and is such a heartthrob. Yeah. I'm sure I was the envy of everybody in San Diego at that point, but my heart went out to him because I thought, good for him, you know.
Right. And he's a super nice bloke, you know. There's not a nicer fella you'll meet, you know. He's and you know, it's funny you said about the Broadway set when you were doing it. The set that we did it in was one of the greatest. It was like Broadway too, and we were told that we were going to Broadway in the whole bit as well. It didn't happen, but it supposedly came close. Who knows? But the set was incredible, and we came out through these windows frames in the beginning, and he's on this big table, and the show starts, and it's just powerful. And Whitney Basher, I mean, what can I tell you? The girl is beyond talented. She's fantastic.
Well, that's great to hear. We had Kate Shindle in that part, an ex Miss America who I would go to the gym with, and she would be in her sweats working out on the treadmill, and I'd see these other people, and I thought, if they only knew that sweaty girl in those dirty clothes was Miss America at one time. I couldn't believe it, but you know, that's what happens when you work the regions. Adrianne, it actually reminds me of a little episode that we had the last time I was out at Surflight. I guess I was there directing you, and you had just won an award for playing
a major award.
A major award. It was not shaped like a leg with a lampshade on it, but you had just won this award, and she found out as she was helping clean the.
I was cleaning toilets, literally.
Yeah, all right. I wanted you to. I didn't want.
Yeah, no, I was helping with. I was helping out doing some company management things like that, changeover stuff, and I literally was in rubber gloves and toilet brush, and you're in the doorway, a couple martinis, and I think you'd had a night, and we're dancing, and I'm in there, and all of a sudden my phone, I'm like, who's this on the phone? And it was the director of the show I had done a couple that summer in Florida, and she's like, hey, you just won this Best Actress Tampa Bay, and I was like, I want to know, holding my toilet brush, dripping.
Such a glamorous profession.
It's so glamorous.
Well, thank God you didn't drop the phone in the toilet.
I was thinking.
But that's the thing. People don't realize when we're on top of it that they think that we're, you know, so glamorous and we have these elegant, beautiful,
probably
lives.
She'd be here to get this award. She must be doing something fabulous. Yeah,
well,
I was very busy.
I can't tell you how everybody in the company appreciated what you were doing at that very moment.
Good for you.
So, you know, it must have been for you guys a frustrating, I mean, for all of us, it was a frustrating year, but especially with Surflight, because you're both so, Andrew, I mean, you are Mr. Surflight. I should tell the audience that you have an unofficial fan club on Long Beach Island called the Footies, because they come to see everything that Andrew does at least once. And so, for you guys not to be able to be involved this year because of
we actually were just saying that last night. We were like, even because we've done a couple of the Christmas shows there too, and so like even like a time of year at a beach location that you wouldn't really necessarily associate with nostalgia. Even for Christmas, we're kind of nostalgic for it, you know, because you just, you know, the way the the way the winds blew this year, like literally and figuratively, that it wasn't meant to be. So yeah, it's been wild. I was thinking when you were telling that story about Adrianne with the award and a toilet brush in one hand and an award in another. It's kind of funny because you were saying like it's not glamorous. If people knew like how we go from the alpha and the omega. Last year, 2019 was it was our busiest year, but it was almost that blessed curse that sometimes happens in actors' lives, and it happened to both of us at the same time, where you can book like 5 or 6 jobs in a full year, and jobs that are, but you have that cursed like 3 to 4 week gap in between each one, where you
the unemployment doesn't kick in fast enough,
right? And you're just waiting to get from your closing night to that first Thursday of rehearsal, 5.5 without being on the breadline. But you couldn't that experience for anything, or that success. But you think, wow, this is really what they mean. You say, oh, we paid our dues when we were younger, and like, oh, you still pay your dues. They just keep recycling.
That's right.
It just costs more now. The dues just cost more. I had a similar experience this year. I had 3 jobs lined up from the spring right through the fall. This never happens, but there was no overlap. So I didn't have to worry about collecting. I didn't have to worry about saying, can I come 3 days late to this?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And of course they all fell like a house of cards, but
you do.
It will. My agent used to say it's ebb and flow, and you have, no matter where you are in your career, there's good times and bum times. So, but Gary, I was going to say you had a lovely surprise this year, not in the theater because you weren't able to work, but I saw you in a wonderful character on Law and Order SVU.
It was, and it was the premiere, which was kind of cool. And that's what my agent rings me. I hadn't, you don't hear anything from her. I love her, but and she calls me at 8:15 on Sunday night and says to me, Gary, so I just got this thing, and forgive me, it just came across my computer. Maybe I had it and I forgot about it, but I just saw it, and this character is you, and I need you to tape for it immediately. I said, okay. So it's 8:30. I said, okay, so what do you want, Tuesday, Wednesday? She says, no, they need it by 9 a.m. tomorrow. I said, and they need a live reader. Okay, so here I am with me 5-year-old swinging out on my leg. I'm like, hold on a minute. I said, I'm going to do what I can do. All right, don't panic. So I'm like, okay, tell them I'll get it to them in the morning as fast as I can, knowing well that I'd never make 9 a.m. So I rang up my mate, Tony Daniels, who was, you might know, he's a famous voice actor, and he's a great bloke. And Tony said, look, I'll be in the room as far as they're concerned. Just have an extra phone and I'll be on the phone reading with you because they want a live reader. So I took me wife's phone and I put it on my stand, and I put Tony's there and I can see him, and FaceTime and Tony. And I said, okay, here we go. And blah, blah, blah. My reader is Tony Daniels. He's right here. Thank you. And I'm bump, 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 and away we go. And I read with Tony, and who, wonderful director like yourself, Davey. And anyway, long story short, I got it into them by about 11:15. And I said, okay, well, that's probably too late, but whatever. 2:15, get a phone call. They loved it. They want you. You're in. I said, okay, wow, that quick. So, and they film just as quick. They've been doing it for 21 years, and it's, but just fabulous experience. I love, the people were super,
Well, it was a real stretch of a role for you too.
In a pub, an Irish bloke on the pub. I know, who would have thought that? You know what I mean? You've never seen me in
your accents. That's I appreciate that.
Yeah, finally I was allowed to be a North Dubliner. Thanks very much. Yeah, it was great. Well, himself and Nora, I was the same accent too, which was lovely. I cherished those little roles. But anyway, so I'll give you a funny story. They had a Zoom read through with, you know, and Mariska, you know, Hargitay, and she's lovely, and all the characters, Ice-T, and you know, and you know, Kelly Giddish, and everybody's there, and they're all reading, and I'm not used to doing, you know, Zoom things, so they have controls of everything, and I had it on my phone because I didn't have my computer at that time. And the director, Warren Lay, says, okay, so right after we read, I'm just going to keep the series regulars for a minute. Guest artists, thank you very much. I'll let you go. We'll see you on set. So we read through, blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, thank you. All right. And I flick off my phone. I thought it wasn't. It was still on. So Mariska says, oh, my God, Warren, who's that Irish lad? He's great, blah, 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 blah. Let's go series regular about this whole bit. And I'm trying to hit the bloody phone, please. And next of all, Warren says, Mariska, he can hear you. He's still on. And I said, I apologize. I said, I'm so bloody sorry. I can't turn off this phone. I'm sorry. And they're laughing. Anyway, I was the joke, apparently, because the next week when I was on in hair and makeup, Kelly said to me, we were in stitches for like 10 minutes after you left. We couldn't stop laughing because you were panicking. Like I was panicking. I was like, geez, they're going to think I'm a narcissist, you know, with you. And you know, and so it was funny, but it definitely broke the ice. And to work with them, they're so easygoing and warm, and they do it, Davey, first time. Boom, that's great. Turn around. Boom, that's great. Turn around. You know, you're sitting in your waiting and you're holding in your camper or whatever it is, and you're like, you think you can have it, you know, play a video game? No, well, you know, not like usual, you know, and you're waiting 2 minutes. Okay, you're back on. Fantastic.
Well, that's great. To hear. And I'm so happy for you that you got to do it because
thanks, mate.
You know, we're all thankful for any little bit that we can get right now. I did a virtual production of a play earlier this year that I never would have thought would have happened. So that was a lovely surprise. And praise be, I got my week, so I got my equity insurance. And
yeah, that's great.
Thank God.
So I always say, what were we doing this time last year, and what did we think the year was going to be about? This year, my gosh, we could never have predicted, but sometimes there's some nice Easter eggs in there too. And you know what, Gare? You're going to be getting residuals from that appearance into your old age. Because
you know, it's funny. I still get checks from Boardwalk Empire all the time, and
I loved you in that too. You were terrific,
and they just keep coming. It's like in the ATM machine, you know. It's great. I mean, it's like it's fabulous, isn't it? But
I get one every once in a while from something I did 25 years ago, but it's only about 63 cents. And
okay.
And if you looked for me in the movie, you couldn't find me. But
David, you know, not to switch gears for a second, but I tell the story. Sorry to interrupt, Pay, I tell the story all the time of you when we were going. You were almost about to hire me for the Florida rep for the Seafarer, and at the time, me missus, you know, I just had a baby and this and that, and you know, and I just couldn't leave, and I was so nervous going in to tell them that because they'd called me and they pretty much had told me they want you for it, pretty much, you know, whatever, and I was shaking, and Dave took me outside the room and sat me down like a father figure almost, and said, "Listen, it's okay, it's okay." I'll never forget it, Davey. Never forget it. And
well, I gotta tell you, I once I got into rehearsal, and I'm really telling tales now too, because the actor that we got instead of you was not you, and I was cursing you out that day.
Dave.
But no, it was we really did want you. Gary came in. I was directing the Seafarer down at Florida Rep, and we had only one role yet to cast. And when he walked into the room, I thought we don't even need to see him read. He's perfect. And you know, he kind of laid the news on us after. Before he would come in for a callback, and you know, these things happen, and life is more important than a job, and it worked out. It was a very well received show, and you were well remembered by them because then you went down and did Cabaret, right?
I did, yeah. It was loved it.
So they love you there. You don't have anything to worry about by turning down a job. So
yeah, but you know, it's a very uncomfortable thing because it's so few and far between. You hate,
I know,
to say no to anything, as you guys know, and you know. But
well, you made the right decision. You have a happy, healthy family around you. So that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Thank you, David. Thank you for that.
Well, and you two, you're lucky to be living together. I know the reason why, but I mean, during these times, it's so important to have somebody, especially who does what you do, to understand, the feelings of despair and saying it's never going to happen again. What if? And so, we have every reason to bereave, but also believe that we'll all be on the boards again really soon. I think the last time I saw you guys both on stage was in the Boynton Beach.
She did it. I didn't do it. I wasn't in it.
Just me.
Yeah,
but you did the reading of it, though.
I did. Yeah. That was. And it was quite different, as they always are. They're all, it was different from reading to production, right? I mean, it was that was interesting to watch, So. Well,
you had some really wonderful, illustrious names in addition to Adrianne in that cast.
I was not. Yeah.
And the co-lyricist, Michael Colby, was on the show, was it last week, I think?
Oh, really?
Yes. And when he saw who was coming on next week, he said, "Oh, Adrianne, she was in my production of, so the Boynton Beach Club." And he was very proud about that. And so have you been able to snag some busy work during this period?
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because we're working together again right now, doing the same job, but it's vastly different than performing.
Mm-hmm.
But
actually, it's not. It's a little the same. We just took full-time remote job, as long as it lasts.
Hopefully it's short.
Hopefully not too long. As contact tracers for the Department of Health. So we're working and case investigating cases. So, we're doing our part. We've been assigned local health departments and making phone calls, check.
We get our list of people to call for the day, and it's
great.
I mean, real human drama on the other end of the telephone.
You kind of act like a social worker a little bit at times. So there's a little bit of that as well. So it's intense, but
the same thing, like what you said, like you said, you touched on it before, we're lucky to be understand, our show business jobs, right? You understand the sacrifices, you understand the, what you go through, but in very real time doing this new job, thank God I can open the door and say, "Oh my God, I just got off the phone with this." Whatever the individual issue each individual case is going through. Same thing, so we can talk about like just the emotions of it, which is it's heavy duty, and something that kind of really fell into our laps a couple weeks ago, and wow.
Well, I would think that anybody that you talk to would be glad to have an actor on the other end, because actors are so compassionate and,
we said yesterday that we were talking about this yesterday in the car, that we have to think on our feet so much, right? As actors, right? We're always, you're taking in lots of information in a short amount of time. And that's what these contact tracing and case investigating calls are.
Yeah.
It's take a lot of information at a given time and then react to it on whatever that information is, right? And to relate to somebody on an emotional level, like key into that emotion that they're giving you and either reflect it back or try and lead them somewhere. Those little thought exercises that we use to navigate scene work or line delivery, whatever we're doing in real time as actors, it's not that far removed. It doesn't, the parts of the brain that spark, at least the way it feels for me, I don't feel it's that different, because if you can be, when you're an actor, you want to get yourself hyper aware and in the moment, and so that you're just about the other person. And that's exactly what you have to do when you pick up the phone and dial.
Yeah. And even though the script, it's not scripted, but we have just an online forms that we have to go through. It's the same for every person. Every single call is so different. You're never just repeating the same things over and over again. And again, it's just like, it's like doing the same show a million times with different actors. It's never the same.
Yeah.
It's just always different. And
it's tough. Obviously the stakes are way higher than what we do,
it's not
right?
funny. I'm giggling, but
there's also that moment I always feel before we press, the send on to dial the number, where you get nervous because I'm nervous about what I'm going to, how's this going to, how am I going to do this? How is this going to play out? Right. Which is what we feel the moment before we go on stage. But the thing that always makes me not nervous on stage is remember that it's about the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna bring you to the spot. That's gonna bring you to a spot that's gonna make some sort of reality and something new happen. And it's the same thing with this job. It says, okay, you're nervous. How is this going to end? Will this end with a good outcome, or will I provide what the person needs? And you think the person's going to tell you what they need, and that's what you do with your scene partner. If you're walking across, make it about them, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's a great way of looking at it, and you are a collaborator. I know that because I've worked with you as
we've been thrown into some fun situations with
we did. I am thinking now.
What you're going to say right now?
I'm thinking about one now that two Shakespearean actors who are out there. A Ken Ludwig play called Leading Ladies.
Yeah.
And so we were doing Shakespeare and drag and love scenes, and we were doing a farce where we had to go up and down a staircase because it was a unit set because they were rebuilding the scene shop.
Right.
And so they didn't have time to build three completely different sets for the three plays that were 1 week after another. So we basically had to use the same elements. Now, when you do a farce, you want it all to be on one level so you can slam those doors and come in out of the arches and everything. But we had to run up the stairs and down the stairs, and we managed. And I remember that summer vividly because I was also doing A Few Good Men, I think, during. So I was playing the Jack Nicholson part in A Few Good Men, and a Shakespearean actor in drag in the other one, and I was trying to learn them because it was 1 week stock.
Yeah.
Before I got there, knowing full well that it was going to be hectic. But what I was doing while I was learning the script was playing Roger Debris in The Producers, and I was sitting backstage at Gateway Playhouse in my Chrysler Building gown. And I was cracking the guys who I shared a dressing room with up because they'd walk in and they'd see me in a gown and a tiara. A script that said A Few Good Men. And it just, I didn't think it was anything funny. I was doing my homework, leave it alone. But
perfect.
It's like one of those backstage images, though. I mean, that's what it is, right? That's what this show's about. it's like,
well, we all know sometimes the funnier things happen off stage, and God knows at Surflight. So, have you ever counted how many shows you actually did at Surflight?
Steve and I tried to do it. I mean, the thing that makes it also the numbers inflate almost to an extraordinary level is that I directed the children's theater there for a long time. So that adds, like, in a summer, it could add 15 or 16 shows of productions that I would be a part of too. So it's a lot. It's over, I think in 2019, I guess we were at like 130, 140 of ones that I had done collectively there with wow. It's I never thought that I mean, it was my first job, my first like stock job, and you just always circle back, right? you were saying it to Gary about Florida Rep, where like, you know, even though it was heartbreaking to turn down a role, he went back, and I think that's, the four of us, right? Is that we're not the glamorous people. We're the ones who've been, we have those 20-year, hopefully 40 or 50-year careers of just making relationships with places, so that you just, you know what I mean? You want that. At least that's what I think. When Adrianne.
Yep. Work begets work. And
those good relationships.
Yeah. And I don't know how you can say I'm not glamorous with this jacket. But no, it's true. Work begets work, and people who know you give you a chance to do something outside of the box. And, Gary, I think you and I have actually been up for the same role a couple of times. I was very disappointed when I didn't get Fagin once, and you got it.
Oh, sorry.
But no, it's all right. I think they chose the right man for that job.
No, I don't know about that.
I ended up doing it a few years later. So
yeah, I mean, you're so right for that, Dave.
And I thought, oh, darn, Gary Troy is here, and I know who's going to get this one. So
no,
but it's okay.
Don't believe that's not true.
You told me I could say, oh yes, well, he was my understudy.
And I never let him go on.
No, the production I did was at an outdoor theater. It was only a 2-week run. We were supposed to be doing it in a park to canned music, and they had 2 sets of kids, and so I never knew who was playing what.
Oh boy! Oh God!
I had to say, we had a week of rehearsal, and we only did 1 performance in the park, and we were rained out for the rest of the time. So we performed the show in an old firehouse that was filthy and hot and steamy. And I kept saying, if I never do Fagin again, it'll be too soon, because it was such an unpleasant experience. So yeah, you got the prize. You got the one, I'm sure, in an air-conditioned theater with.
Listen, it was just that champagne that was served to us on stage. Don't let that throw you, Dave. No, it wasn't that glamorous.
That really would have done it. So we've Adrianne and Andrew and I had a near miss at working together a couple of years ago. I was offered a project
that's right.
that I had to wrestle with, for practical reasons, and I decided not to do it. But they did it together. It was a great experience, because you were about to go on your honeymoon and all of that, right?
We got married. We were overseas. We went to Korea, and we had told them leading up to the tour. They kept calling us back, and we said, we actually.
This is my fault.
This is Andrew's fault. If you have a minute for a funny story.
All right. So first of all, to set it up, David's talking about Adrianne and I 3 years ago. We were
2016 and 17.
Oh yeah. So 4 years ago, we ended up performing on the Korean company of Jekyll and Hyde. So, but the story really begins months before that, before David even entered into the picture of talking about it. But so we're sitting on our couch one night, and watching TV. It's normal. It was normal times. It's pre-COVID, so you still got audition appointments. So my phone rings, and it goes off. There's an email, and I say, "Oh, look, the rest of my agents just sent me an audition for the Korean tour, Jekyll and Hyde."
The tour that we had seen posted. We were like, "Oh,
yeah, we knew it was on our radar.
That would be so cool." Except it opens right around our wedding that we had been planning.
Yeah, so I said, "Oh, look, that."
So
Korean,
we let it go. We didn't.
And she turns to me and she says, "Didn't you tell your agent about the wedding?
Didn't you give the blackout dates for that weekend? You didn't
send him the dates yet?" I mean, and we were already thousands of dollars into investing in the wedding. I mean, it was money was spent. There was no change in these dates.
My agent knows about the wedding.
And I said, "Oh yeah, maybe he forgot or something." So I was like, "Well, I'll call and tell him that I'm not going to come." So I call him the next day and I say, "Listen, I'm in a real I'm in a bind right now. You got to get me. I can't come in. Tell him for the reasons why." So he says, "Well, let me call casting and talk to them." Oh, I think that's an Amazon delivery. So he says, "Let me call casting. Let me see if they'll work with the dates." And I'm thinking, okay, this is not going to happen. We have to spend 3 days in Florida doing this wedding in the middle of rehearsal. It won't happen. So he calls back and said, yeah, they want you to go to the audition, go. All right. So I go to the audition and, before I say anything to the team, I said, listen, these are the dates. I don't want to lead anybody down the garden path. I don't want to have to, tell you that. And so they said, yeah, it'll be fine. So as I'm walking out, I did my, whatever the material they had sent. As I'm walking out of the door, the casting director grabs me into, which is what you always want. The thing you always want is the casting director as you're walking out the door to grab me, like, hey, to start talking to you. So she grabs me and says, so you're still marrying Adrianne Hick, right? And I said, yes, that's who it is.
So then like an hour later, my agent called me and said, they want to see you for Jekyll and Hyde. I don't know why they want to see you. She said, I didn't submit you. I know you have the wedding. I said, I know why they want to see me, because they saw Andrew like an hour ago. So I went in like it might have been the same day or like the next morning I went in and they were like, we went through everything. And then like, as I'm leaving, I'm like, you guys know about the wedding, right? They're like, yeah, we know.
And we, just to be clear, because we also didn't want to get ourselves, excited for it and say, for them to, right up until the final auditions, like when, I'm singing This Is the Moment for Frank Wildhorn in the room. And it's like, okay.
We're like, Frank, the wedding.
November 17th and 18th. You cannot be in Korea or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
So we got the gig. But then fast forward 6 months later, David, because we tell it was 6 month lead time, so we told all our friends that we were doing it, and so David's like, tell me about this Jekyll and Hyde, and you went back and forth with it about.
Well, with me, it was a little different. It was a lot later in the process, and they were only looking for, I think, 2 roles at that point. Mm-hmm. And my agent brought me in, and I was thinking, I don't know that this will be practical for me, because even though it was a lucrative contract and it was a nice long run, and it would have been nice to be, traveling. It wasn't giving me the benefits package that I needed to take me through.
Right.
So I went in thinking nothing of it, because I also am not necessarily a Frank Wildhorn singer. So I went in and sang some Julie Stein, and they looked at me rather strangely, like, of course, what the hell is he even doing here? And I left the room, and people from casting came out and caught me at the elevator, and they said, could you come back in and read this scene and do the same thing you did? We want the people in Korea to see this. So they were setting up equipment. So I went in and did my Julie Stein song again and read, and all of a sudden the room was abuzz, and I thought, oh, darn it, I'm going to get this. And I don't know why, and I don't know really what to tell them. And so I knew that you guys were sort of committed. So I called you up and said, what do you know about this? And everything. I was pumping Adrianne for all kinds.
Like, come with us.
And it was, I think we talked about it, where you get to one of those points where you're trying to, like Gary was saying, you're trying to like, okay, I'm in the process. I know they want me, but I'm trying to figure out a nice way to exit this process now. Yeah. And I think it was like, well, what if I think you said it was, or maybe we talked about, well, maybe if I asked for an incredible amount of money. And then I think that it was either like somebody, I talked to my agent about something because my contract was changing and we were renegotiating for the understudy money. And like, I think we started to realize there's a lot more money in this thing. And so I was like, I don't think that's going to be a way you're going to get out of it, because if they
the offer went up so high that my agent, who was totally in my corner and understanding what I was feeling about this, said, oh, I think maybe we have to consider this. She said, well, how high do we need to go in order to accommodate? And basically what I said is, I have to have enough to live on for 6 months afterwards and to pay for my health insurance, because I won't have that to fall back on. And of course, that was ridiculous. But for you guys, you were able to go on a honeymoon and be together.
Oh,
And
we had the wedding.
I sublet my apartment when I'm away here. I have somebody else. I don't know. He's in the other room.
He's on the computer
right now. Yes. And somehow I don't think he would have wanted me to sublet my half of the master bedroom. So.
Yeah. Well, we gave up our place because we were going to be gone for almost a year, and they totally did. They let us go for 6 days for our wedding. And we all got New Year's, Lunar New Year off. So we went on a honeymoon to Thailand, and then we came back and bought a place.
We bought this.
So.
Well, it all worked out great for you. And I tell you, I know I made the right decision in the long run, but I didn't work for 4 of those months when you guys, I was thinking, oh, gee, should I have gone to Korea?
Well, I'll tell you, and I know health insurance is always very important, especially as we get older, it becomes more important. And for you to have those weeks banked for the union insurance back home. But I will say that while we were there, we had insurance, Korean, insurance, and it was top notch. I mean, the best. Anything for nothing. I mean, it was so cheap, and anything you needed at all.
Oh, really?
There were times you would go like with different cast members, because we found a place that if you just dropped the name of the show, they would give it to you for free.
Yeah, you'd get all sorts of stuff. Just be like, oh, Jekyll and Hyde,
like,
and they were like, what?
Yes. But I'll say though, the backstage drama of that production could fill 5 of these green room shows. Yeah.
Well,
without naming names.
We're not going.
I mean, it was. Yeah, we were.
I think I have probably an idea of who some of those names might be, but I thank you for sharing.
I got to be in the unedited position.
I'm wondering if I didn't make a wrong decision there again, but
I got to be in one of those unenviable, but like really kind of like harrowing, but exciting show business stories that you kind of think like when you're a kid, like, oh, I want to be an actor, and maybe where I was sitting in the makeup chair with them putting on all of the accoutrement to be the lead of the show, and on the phone with my agent being like, we got to get paid for this. This is, like one of the, and he's like, hold the curtain, don't go, do not go out on that stage until I call you with telling you X, Y, Z, just one of those, like, and you're thinking, God, like I'm sitting at this moment, I'm holding, there's there's 4,000 people in the audience. There's, we're in and I'm like holding, just one of those, things you never think would happen.
Well, and how often do we get the power? We're always the one, right? I'll go on at a minute's notice, right. But all of a sudden, once in a while, you have a moment where you
just hold on.
You got somebody's balls in your hand and ready.
Time you're second guessing yourself. You're like, I'm doing. This is what's right. I'm not being a mercenary. I'm not taking advantage of a situation. I might be the one being taken advantage of. Yeah, it was. Just tip of the iceberg of this drama with that. We went.
During our little intermission, we're going to get a little sampling of how wonderful you are in that role. And we're also we have a little video there.
I see.
I surprised Gary by getting that clip in the beginning.
Yes,
and
we did.
We have to do some video clips during the intermission. We're also going to feature a little bit of an Adrianne Hick performance, which my favorite performance is going to be your Nellie Forbush. It would always be, but I did see you do Bright Star at Surflight.
Yeah, which I was in the middle of almost opening last March. But
yes, I was going to say you did it somewhere else, but then it stuck in my throat because I thought, oh no, you didn't quite do it.
We got to Sitz Probe. And then we're doing it this summer. Yeah.
No, I have one of those too that I've already seen it being put back on the theater schedule. So I'm hoping that the vaccinations will all be in place by then. And it really is very encouraging what's happened. And we always have a little play out music here on the show, and I was going to put a New Deal for Christmas from Annie on the back there, but we actually found something else because we thought it almost feels like that now, that we might get
so close.
So yeah. So as we approach the time of our little intermission, I always ask a quiz question that we open to our viewers, and if none of them get it, they have during the intermission to think about it. Then we'll discuss it, and it may open up a little bit of more theater history. So this is the quiz question this week. This is in honor of our collaboration, Rodgers and Hammerstein. And I know, Andrew, you were actually doing a South Pacific at the same time as we were too.
I was, yeah. I was. We've gotten to do the show never together, but
a couple times each. Never together.
I was about to go do it again up at Goodspeed right before we got this all screwed up again. So
maybe there'll be another time soon. So
yeah.
But Gary, have you done any Rodgers and Hammerstein?
I haven't. No, I haven't. No.
Well,
I never even auditioned for it.
They're pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
That was my last musical before I closed Sound of Music at Oslo. That was the one I just did. So I love, they're my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I just love them.
Well, I'm a little prejudiced about the Sound of Music. I know it's not the great masterpiece that South Pacific is, but it was the first Broadway show I ever saw when I was a toddler. So and as much as everybody loves the movie, it's the stage version that resonates with me.
The stage version is
I don't know why people always say that it's too treacly, and they fixed it in the movie. The movie to me is lovely, but it's more treacly than the stage version.
It is, yeah.
Anyway, well, the quiz question is, what was the first collaboration of Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II? And I will warn you,
it's a trick.
It's not as easy as you think.
I was going to say, this is a trick question.
Yes. So while we all have time to think about that, here is a clip of Adrianne at work in Bright Star and Andrew at work in Jekyll and Hyde. Signature roles for you guys. So you can either enjoy the clip
or hide.
Go to the bathroom, make another Bloody Mary, or do all of it. But it's only about 2 minutes, but it's enough to give you a wonderful taste of you guys at work. So I'll see you back after the clip. If you could only sing, Andrew, if you only had some pipes there to use.
Beautiful.
It only go here like that.
It all came from the head. Yeah.
The magic helmet they put on me.
So, which production was that we just saw? Which time was it that you were?
That was Jekyll and Hyde. That was in Korea.
That was Korea. I thought
that was Korea.
You missed like this in that video doesn't capture it, but like the very 90s, like, the 90s musical thing where the laboratory comes forward and then he turns his back and he goes like this and it opens up and all the lights and smoke come out the back.
Well, we were featuring Andrew and not the special effects today. And what I don't understand is, it doesn't sound like Julie Stein music. I don't understand why.
You got the jacket.
You know what it was? I think it was just because it was very high in my range, so my voice had a different quality. I don't know, or maybe they just couldn't get anybody else to do this. Talking about hair, I'm looking at Gary's hair, and I say, you should play Sweeney Todd now, Gary.
Oh God! You mean why? Why?
Yes, or Jekyll and Hyde. You got the hair.
I just cut it too. Believe it or not.
Well, it's definitely
just cut mine too. Yeah.
We're seeing
COVID hair.
COVID hair is exactly. We're going to be using that.
Yeah.
For many years to come, and we can joke about it in then, and I think about the times past when theater has risen, and it's always been a fresh new look and generated new wonderful creativity. So we can certainly look forward to that after this. I was just speaking. My wife just said to me last night. She says, she's in the fashion business, and she said, as dark as it is now, people are so dying to move forward and get out and party and play. They're going to be like wild beasts when this is over, and when they get the green light. And I think theater is going to go crazy. I think, restaurants, everything that needs to go crazy is going to go crazy. Please God. And I really do agree with that. I think we're going to be in for a marvelous, prosperous time once we get through this darkness. Well, you have a beautiful, positive energy. So that's why you're here, Gary. That's what you want every week, Yeah. And the fashion industry, I'm thinking that, well, people don't put on clothes and go out. And
exactly. They're dying to buy something to go out.
Yeah. I actually do have pants on today, but usually when I do this show, I don't have to. You don't see me from the waist down, but I actually put shoes and pants on. So isn't that exciting? So I know that the quiz question has been flashed underneath. Mm-hmm. Did we get any answer? I don't think we did from the public. So does anybody know the answer to this?
Not me.
Well, you kind of teased it by saying, I'm going to say it's not Oklahoma, right? So it's something else. But I just know it's not.
My only guess.
Well, you'd sort of be half right, because that's the one that they instigated together, and it was the first major collaboration they did together. Well, Adrianne has a clue, though.
Well, they wrote one, and then when I was doing Sound of Music last year, I was reading one of the books on them that had just come out. But didn't they write one, and then it kind of got backburnered, and then it came back?
Well, that is probably a later one. This is more than 20 years earlier than Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
Richard Rodgers was in college at Columbia, and he was collaborating with who then became his famous collaborator before Hammerstein, Lawrence Hart. But he also, half the lyrics were also written by Hammerstein. Believe it or not, in 1920, it was a show called Fly With Me. Wow. And it was never recorded until 1980. but it actually has a song called "When I Go Out Walking with My Baby" that almost surfaced in Oklahoma years later. And it's interesting because they did use a lot of trunk songs. Richard Rodgers wrote a song for South Pacific called "Suddenly Lucky" for Cable to sing, and it got cut, but the melody surfaced in King and I several years later, and it was "Getting to Know You" instead of "Suddenly Lucky."
Wow.
And Boys and Girls Like You and Me, which was in Oklahoma and cut, ended up in a stage version of Cinderella many years later.
Yeah.
And then they put it in State Fair too.
Yeah. And there's a specific song that ended up in Cinderella as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Wow.
so Richard Rodgers.
When I Walk With My Baby, was that in place of Sorry with the Fringe on Top? Was that
I think it might have been, but it may have been an earlier draft. Does anybody know what the original title of Oklahoma was?
No. What
It's a bonus round this week. Even playing out of town at the Colonial Theater, it was "Away We Go."
Away we go.
And if you got the first printing of the sheet music from the show, it still has the Theater Guild presents "Away We Go."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
Kind of a banal title, like just
yeah, and nobody gave it much of a shot. I think it was Billy Rose who famously said, "There's no sex, no chorus girls, no glitz there." No something I paraphrased terribly, but that's as it goes, and it opened in New York with a woman churning butter and a man singing off stage, "Oh, what a beautiful morning." I don't think anybody recognized that as any kind of musical comedy they had seen at this point. So and here we are, and now we think the last revival didn't quite match that kind of old-fashioned, what we call old-fashioned approach. But I'll leave that there. I was not.
I mean, I'm sure Billy Rose didn't think that it needed chili and cornbread and either. So.
Yeah. The Dream Ballet was especially frightening to me. Agnes DeMille would not know what to have made of that, but that's just my opinion. I'm very opinionated when it comes to classical music.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I try to steer away from it, but this is my forum, darn it, so I can say those.
Yeah, that's right. You.
So this is the point where I actually say, what projects did you have on hold that might be coming up soon? What are you looking forward to in the new year? What are you working on? And it's kind of a frightening question, knowing the place we are in. But I'll bet you've got some things that you really are working on, whether you know it or not. What are you guys doing, Andrew, Adrianne?
Well, we said we were like literally it was like press pause on what we were. You were a week away from opening.
I was we did a designer run and a sits probe, and then we had to go home for a production of Bright Star in Virginia. And I actually just spoke with the artistic director 2 days ago, and they're still planning on doing the show. We're going to do it. They just pushed it back. They wanted to do it this spring. They're going to push it back to the summer, hopefully late spring into the summer. And that's that's kind of actually been really helping me this whole time, knowing that theater is so dedicated to doing that show with the cast that they had put in place. To know that'll be there to come back to is nice. And that artistic director wants to talk about 2022. So it's exciting.
That's great.
So that's good.
And you guys probably, if all good things, you can go home to Surflight at one point.
Yeah,
we'll see. Yeah. We're like for the summer, we're like, if things are open and booked and going, we're both going to be, fingers crossed, she's in Virginia. I'm doing South Pacific #4. I think the thing that what were you gonna say?
I know. I just have a really funny do I have a minute to tell a funny story?
Sure.
So where we live in New Jersey. So are kind of like in the next neighborhood over So in South Pacific, Andrew and I said we've done it a few times, never together. And he plays Billis and I play Nellie. And of course, in the show, he's like we had our storyline, David, where he's a little bit in love. There's like a little bit of love there for Nellie. And so we always joke and around the corner from us, there's like a car garage where they fix cars, a mechanic, and it's called Emil's Garage. So I always joke that like Nellie and Billis actually got together and moved to New Jersey, and Emil was so brokenhearted he followed them and opened like a mechanic shop.
That's hysterical.
Well, maybe a sequel will actually.
Yeah.
And we drive past, we're like, poor Emil. He's like out there like tinkering, and he looks and sees us drive by. Anyway.
I think
Well, that story made them freeze up. I don't know what happened.
did we freeze up? Wait, are we back? Hold on.
Yes.
Okay.
You're back.
You say you said what are we excited about? Yeah, and it's cool to know that we're like maybe employed, but we're always those jobs are just a moment in time. About it, and I think it's very rare. You said theater reinvents itself all the time, and it does. But I think there's something exciting about being the pounding the pavement actor that we all of us are. That the amount of when this thing opens up and we're all put in that starting gate like a horse race. I mean, it's just open. There's all these than there have ever been, and so it's kind of cool in that way. Like there's something exciting about that. All right, let's open those gates and start, because there's so much. We're always fighting like, that show's been running. You got to wait for somebody to die to leave Phantom. You have to wait. All of those things, everything to a certain extent it's a thing to grab, which I think is kind of cool. That's good.
I always say that. I'm sorry, Gary.
No, I was just going to add to that, and I agree with Andrew 100%. And I also think that it's going to be a bit of a frustrating time, because there'll be several things put in front of you where you'll like, I've always wanted to do those three things.
Yeah,
exactly right.
And that's a beautiful problem to have, but I do think that's going to be a bit of a thing.
Well, I hope we all have that problem.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I always say it's frightening when somebody asks you that question that I just asked. What are you doing next? I mean, it's the pit of your stomach, and if I don't have four things to talk about, I feel like diminished. But I've also felt that the time when you have absolutely nothing ahead of you, that's when a big wonderful surprise comes that leads to 8 other things that you didn't know about. So that's what's going to happen. And I think Gary's after the reception that you got on Law and Order, that character may reappear.
Oh, please God!
At
least he didn't get killed like my other stories on television.
Oh.
So he's still alive.
Yes. Well,
yeah.
It was so thrilling to hear what the regulars said, and that you sincerely made a mistake and we're not eavesdropping.
It was like amateur night in Nebraska, Gary Troy on a Zoom call.
Thank goodness that's what you heard.
That's what Kelly said to me. She said to me, Gary, Mariska's lovely, but could you imagine if it was like, oh, he's crap. What is he doing here?
On the phone.
Bye. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, I have to say, I've done a little work on film sets, and they have been so careful about the safety measures. And I've had, I don't know how many times they had to test you before you got on that set, but yeah, I've had so many swabs up my nostrils in the last few months that
even in between takes, Dave, you be and cut, and the minute that cut, there's a PA coming up and make sure your mask's on.
Yep.
Even though you've just been tested and you're minutes and hours before, make sure your mask is on in between takes.
Yeah,
and they're so, and that you have to be, and it's great. I was so happy to do it. I mean, look at Tom Cruise got all upset this week, and I'm on his team with this. 100%. Oh yeah. I mean, the guys, the crew not wearing. I mean, come on. I don't blame them. You know,
No, I'm
if we
with
all want to move forward, we all have to do
Yep.
the right thing, move forward, I think. And, you know,
and that may be going forward even after the pandemic is over.
Oh, I
That
think-
there are certain things that they'll be more aware of.
well,
And
you know, it's interesting. You know, I do a little bit of import of PPE from the UK. It's a whole other story, and it was interesting what you were saying, Adrian and Andrew, because I sell, like, test kits. I have a thing coming in for instant test kits and
wow.
sanitizers and all this stuff. And the funny thing is, like, in the future, I can't imagine anybody, and I'm not being sexist, especially girls, guys too. When you do go to a restaurant and you are allowed to sit down, you'll want to have everything within 10 feet of you sanitized and cleaned. Yeah. And I'm checking that seat and I'm making sure this is okay. And I want everything super clean. I think it's just going to be a new way we live.
yeah,
I think it's going to be the new way, because everything's got to be so clean and so careful, because we've learned a valuable, horrible, awful lesson here. That's what I think. I mean,
I'm wondering. I think about, like, a recurring theme that we've had over the last hour of, like, Gary, you were David's understudy. When I met Adrianne, she was an understudy on a show. I mean,
yeah.
You just think how we look at health and the show must go on kind of aspect of it, and knowing, like, I'm feeling a little sick. Actors are singers are always like, but I'm gonna put, and producers saying, we need you to go on tonight. Do not call out. How understudies are going to be utilized.
There may be two understudies.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think the producers, we had so many covers for everyone, but that's the way that production company worked.
Yeah.
But there were no less than 2 covers for every principal, and everybody was rehearsed within an inch of their lives. So I'm remembering now, when we did producers at Surflight, Andrew played my
I did all your tracks
while I was because and that was a real hard track. I don't know how you remember it, but there were in the Springtime for Hitler number, I had something like 6 changes, including wigs and mustaches. Right. In the Broadway company, we had to sing while we were doing the changes.
Oh, God.
So you couldn't tell your dresser, put the mustache on, gloves. You just had to
do it live.
Do it. You were singing. You were live on a microphone, and I had a different dresser in every town we went to on the tour, and these poor people, they were like, it drove them to drink. One of them, actually, it really did. Because I was going on for Max Bialystock every other performance, and every time I'd go on for Max, they'd put a different swing on in my track, and this poor guy, didn't even know, and it was a different, they were identical, but it was a different set of costumes with a different name and a different number inside. So I think this guy really ended up at AA.
I'm sorry.
Many of these stories we'll have to share very soon. And it's a tribute to all of you, your talent and your tenacity and your love of our craft, that you've always been working, and you will be again. And I'm hoping that we'll all be working together again. I know I'm a little sorry that we won't have the Westchester Broadway Theater, Gary. How many shows did you do there?
Oh, God. I mean, Christmas shows and I don't know, maybe at least 5 or 6, different things.
What do they turn?
It was so, what was lovely about it, Dave, as you know, is you could go home at night.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't a case where you're you could go home to your own bed.
Yeah.
And it was so nice. And all you have to do is make that bloody bus on the furthest point of West Side. You're running, like, trying to make it, but that's your only thing. Other than that, you were safe.
And we got used to the commute being hellish on Friday.
Oh, remember? Oh, God.
Yeah.
But I really missed that. And there's so many great names I never realized in the tributes to it. All these famous, great people that went through there.
Yeah.
Marvelous.
I never really finished off asking you what you might be working on now too, Gary.
The answer is absolutely nothing. No, I'm absolutely. I've just been doing a little independent filming, just camera. I'm brushing up on camera because I kind of went toward camera because I thought that's the only possible thing that would be working. I haven't theater-wise. My agent was probably a little upset with me prior COVID because I was turning down a lot of things, David, because they were all long projects and I didn't want to be away from my son. I just didn't want to be away from him. And, I just, I don't want to wait. He's 5 in a few weeks and I don't want to, over the past year and a half pre-COVID, I didn't want to turn around and wake up and he's 12.
I know. And
you sat me down and said that to me too, David. And
I forgive you for not doing the Seafarer. I really do, and I'm glad I said it because as I say, I could have bit my tongue and said, you ruined my show, but no.
That meant a lot to me, Davey. That meant a lot to me. That pep talk was a big one for me. Thank you.
And what's interesting is that one of the 2 of those, that cast of 5 in the Seafarer, who were brilliant in the show, have passed away in the last 2 years. So it just goes to no.
Dodged a bullet.
It just goes to show you that how it all can change in a minute, and these years with your son are precious. And look, you've got a beautiful home, you've got a wonderful wife, and a family. So it's about that. And we're all very lucky that we don't have to spend this time cooped up without love around us. And it's my family is in the other room pressing all the buttons so that we can be okay. And our apartment has turned into a miniature studio, and I've been doing a lot of auditions online and making friends with it because I hated that. And I will tell you also that what I've heard, because we've had a few casting directors on the show, and they've become much more forgiving in terms of the studio setup and all of that. By and large, they've all said, we just want to see the work. You don't have to have the lights and all the other stuff. Now, maybe when this is all over, they'll change their minds about that. But it's great that we have the ability. But I can't wait to be in a rehearsal studio or on a stage with the real thing, and it'll happen again soon.
I've been lucky enough. I mean, lucky just on a spare time and a smaller thing. I sing with a heavy rock band, and
I remember that.
Yeah. So we were super busy coming up to it. So that kind of gave me this, once every couple of weeks to go crazy and pretend I was still on stage. That keep me sane, But even that shut down. So everything stopped, and
I know.
But I think we're turning. It's please God, we're on our way, and I think there's going to be good stuff ahead of us for all of us. I really do.
Me too. Well, this is the time, and this is our last show for 2020. This is the 20th. I can't believe it that we've done it Beyond the Green Room, and I couldn't have had 3 more wonderful, funny, talented people to share this with me. I thank you all.
Thank you, babe.
I would also like to say to our viewers out there, as I've been saying the last couple of weeks, if you are a theater professional and would like to be on the panel, please email me at beyondthegreenroom@gmail.com. We've got our next few weeks pretty much set, but after that, we're waiting for new meat. So we're going to keep this up as long as we can. And it's been great fun. And I want to say that our next week's guests are 3 other wonderful performers who I've been privileged to share the stage with. Oh no, I just heard I'm wrong. Next week we're going to take a week off for the holiday. January 3rd. So it's going to be the first show in the new year I made a mistake, but somebody else made a mistake. That's January 2021. It'll be our our 21st show in 2021.
There we go.
There we go. Attaboy, Tony.
It's nice to have a producer in the house. Anyway, our guests on that date will be Jonas Cohen, Marcy McGuigan, and Aaron McGuire. It sounds like we've got some. We could have done an Irish theme.
Yeah, we could have, you know.
Yeah.
Are you going to play himself and Nora intro again? Or?
No, I'm going to choose something to embarrass them with. So,
Great.
I thank you all for a wonderful day.
Thank you.
You know, our playoff music, I usually have something that one of you has done, or that we've, one of the almosts that didn't happen at Surflight for me was this. Yeah, I should preface this by saying one of the big hits this season has been the TV production of The Prom. Everybody is so delighting in having this for a Christmas gift for all of us. And a show that the same writers did that I liked even better was their Christmas show, Elf. And a few years ago, I almost did it at Surflight.
We almost did that with you.
Yes, I would. We all would have been together. And at the I really wanted to do it. And at the last minute, I got a slightly better monetary offer from Westchester Broadway Theater. And I'm glad I did that one too, because it ended up to be my last Scrooge. So there will be no more Scrooge. I did so many Scrooges at Westchester Broadway Theater. It was actually my last. So I treasure.
You're marvelous in it, Davey.
We are going to play off with a little Christmas tune from Elf. And I will see all of you wonderful viewers back on January 3rd on Beyond the Green Room. And the three of you, I wish you a beautiful, healthy.
Thank you, Adrianne. Thanks to Andrew.
Nice to meet you, Gary.
Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, all that great stuff. Okay. All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay.